In early 18, most of Europe believed that the long and exhausting era of war had finally come to an end. For more than 20 years, the continent had been dominated by the rise of one extraordinary figure, Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon's story was unlike any other in European history. Born on the small Mediterranean island of Corsica, he began his career as a young artillery officer during the chaos of the French Revolution. At a time when France was surrounded by enemies and political instability, Napoleon quickly proved himself as a brilliant and ambitious military commander. His victories came rapidly. In Italy, he defeated armies larger than his own. In Central Europe, he shattered the forces of powerful monarchies that had ruled the continent for centuries. Battle after battle, Napoleon demonstrated an ability to move armies faster, strike harder, and outthink his opponents on the battlefield. By 1804, Napoleon crowned himself Emperor of the French, transforming revolutionary France into a powerful empire. Over the following years, his armies marched across Europe. Austria was defeated. Prussia was crushed. Large parts of Germany and Italy came under French control. At the height of his power, Napoleon dominated nearly all of continental Europe. Only one nation remained a constant enemy: Great Britain. The British Navy controlled the seas and funded coalitions of European powers determined to destroy Napoleon's empire. Years of brutal warfare followed. One of the most disastrous moments of Napoleon's career came in 1812, when he launched a massive invasion of Russia. With more than 600,000 soldiers, it was the largest army Europe had ever seen. But the campaign ended in catastrophe. The harsh Russian winter, combined with supply shortages and constant attacks, destroyed Napoleon's army. Only a small fraction of his soldiers returned alive. The defeat weakened Napoleon's empire and encouraged his enemies. In 1813 and 1814, the armies of Britain, Russia, Prussia, and Austria united in a massive coalition against him. Their combined forces pushed deep into France. In March 1814, Allied troops entered Paris. For the first time in his career, Napoleon was forced to surrender. He abdicated the throne and was sent into exile on the small Mediterranean island of Elba, located off the coast of Italy. The Allied powers believed the war was finally over. Europe's monarchies began restoring the old political order that Napoleon had destroyed. But Napoleon remained restless. Even in exile, he closely followed political events in France. He knew that many soldiers and citizens were dissatisfied with the restored monarchy of King Louis XVIII. Then, in February 1815, Napoleon made a decision that shocked all of Europe. He escaped from Elba. With fewer than 1,000 loyal soldiers, Napoleon sailed across the Mediterranean and landed on the southern coast of France. The French government quickly sent troops to arrest him. But when the soldiers confronted Napoleon, something incredible happened. Instead of attacking, Napoleon walked forward alone and addressed them. "Soldiers," he reportedly said, "if there is any among you who wishes to kill his emperor, here I am." The soldiers did not fire. Instead, they joined him. As Napoleon marched north toward Paris, entire regiments switched sides and swore loyalty to him once again. Within just a few weeks, Napoleon returned to the capital and reclaimed power. This dramatic return became known as the 100 Days. Across Europe, alarms spread rapidly. The Allied powers immediately declared Napoleon an enemy of peace and began mobilizing their armies. They were determined that this time, Napoleon would be defeated forever. Napoleon understood the danger. Before his enemies could fully gather their forces, he decided to strike first. His target would be the Allied armies gathering in Belgium. And there, near a small village called Waterloo, one of the most famous battles in history was about to begin. After returning to power in the spring of 1815, Napoleon understood that his situation was extremely dangerous. His dramatic return to France had shocked the monarchies of Europe, and they were already preparing for war. The Allied powers had no intention of negotiating with him again. To them, Napoleon was a threat to the stability of the entire continent. Within weeks, Britain, Prussia, Austria, and Russia formed what became known as the Seventh Coalition. Their goal was simple: defeat Napoleon once and for all. Massive armies began assembling across Europe. If these forces united and marched into France together, Napoleon's empire would almost certainly collapse. Napoleon knew he had only one chance. He needed to strike first. His strategy was bold but risky. Two powerful Allied armies were gathering in Belgium, north of France. One was commanded by the experienced British General Arthur Wellesley, better known as the Duke of Wellington. The other was led by the Prussian Field Marshal Gebhard von Blücher, one of Napoleon's most determined enemies. If these two armies joined forces, their combined strength would overwhelm the French army. Napoleon's plan was to move quickly into Belgium and attack them separately before they could unite. In June 1815, Napoleon assembled roughly 72,000 soldiers, many of them veterans of earlier campaigns. Although his army was smaller than those of the coalition powers, Napoleon believed his experience and leadership could still deliver victory. On June 15th, French forces crossed the Belgian border. Napoleon moved rapidly, aiming to drive a wedge between the British and Prussian armies. His first objective was to defeat the Prussians before Wellington could arrive to help them. 2 days later, on June 16th, Napoleon met the Prussian army near the town of Ligny. The battle was intense and chaotic. French artillery pounded the Prussian lines while infantry columns pushed forward through villages and fields. After hours of brutal fighting, Napoleon managed to force the Prussians to retreat. It was a tactical victory, but it was not a complete destruction of Blücher's army. Many Prussian soldiers escaped the battlefield and withdrew northward. Napoleon believed they had retreated east toward Germany, but in reality they were moving toward Wellington. Meanwhile, another battle took place on the same day. A French force under Marshal Michel Ney attempted to defeat Wellington's army near the crossroads of Quatre Bras, but the British and their allies held their ground. Although the fighting was fierce, Wellington's army managed to withdraw in good order toward a defensive position south of the village of Waterloo. Napoleon now faced a critical decision. He believed the Prussians had been defeated and were no longer a serious threat. His focus shifted entirely to destroying Wellington's army before any reinforcements could arrive. On June 17th, heavy rain began to fall across the Belgian countryside. Mud covered the fields and roads, slowing the movement of troops and artillery. Wellington positioned his army along a ridge near Waterloo, choosing a strong defensive location. His soldiers dug in, waiting for Napoleon to attack. The following morning, June 18th, 1815, the two armies faced each other across the muddy battlefield. Napoleon commanded roughly 73,000 troops. Wellington had about 68,000 soldiers, including British, Dutch, Belgian, and German forces. For hours, the armies waited. The rain had turned the ground into thick mud, making it difficult to move heavy cannons. Napoleon delayed the attack, hoping the ground would dry. But time was not on his side. Somewhere beyond the battlefield, the Prussian army was marching, and they were coming closer with every passing hour. On the morning of June 18, 1815, the fields near the small Belgian village of Waterloo became the stage for one of the most famous battles in world history. Napoleon's army stood ready across the muddy farmland. Despite the rain and difficult conditions, he believed victory was still possible. If he could defeat Wellington's army before the Prussians arrived, he might still change the course of the war. Across the battlefield, the Duke of Wellington had carefully positioned his forces along a gentle ridge. This defensive position allowed many of his soldiers to remain hidden from French artillery behind the slope. Wellington knew his task was simple but extremely difficult. He had to hold the line. If his army could survive long enough, the Prussians would arrive and tip the balance of the battle. By late morning, the fighting finally began. French artillery opened fire across the battlefield, sending thunderous blasts echoing through the countryside. Cannonballs tore through the muddy fields while smoke quickly filled the air. Soon after, Napoleon ordered his first major assault. French infantry advanced toward a fortified farmhouse called Hougoumont, located on Wellington's right flank. The fighting there became brutal and chaotic. For hours, French troops tried again and again to capture the position, but the defenders refused to surrender. The battle for Hougoumont turned into a deadly struggle that consumed thousands of soldiers. Meanwhile, in the center of the battlefield, French forces launched powerful infantry attacks against Wellington's lines. Columns of French soldiers marched forward under heavy fire. Despite enormous pressure, the Allied forces held their ground. Then came one of the most dramatic moments of the battle. Believing the enemy line was weakening, Marshal Ney ordered a massive cavalry charge against the Allied center. Thousands of French cavalry riders surged forward across the muddy battlefield. But Wellington's infantry responded with disciplined formations known as infantry squares, tight defensive formations of soldiers with bayonets pointing outward on every side. Again and again, French cavalry charged the squares. Again and again, they failed to break them. As the battle continued into the afternoon, both sides suffered terrible losses. Yet the most important moment was still approaching. Far to the east, the Prussian army under Field Marshal Blücher was marching toward Waterloo. Around 4 p.m., the first Prussian troops began arriving on the battlefield. Napoleon suddenly realized the danger. His army now faced enemies on two fronts. Still determined to win, Napoleon ordered one final desperate attack. He sent forward his most famous soldiers, the legendary Imperial Guard. These elite troops had never been defeated in battle. As they advanced toward Wellington Center, many believed they would finally break the Allied line. But the defenders stood firm. When the Imperial Guard reached the ridge, Allied soldiers rose from behind cover and opened devastating fire. For the first time in history, the Imperial Guard began to retreat. When news spread across the battlefield that the Guard was falling back, panic swept through the French army. The line collapsed. Soldiers began fleeing in all directions. Napoleon's army had been defeated. Within hours, the battlefield belonged to the Allied forces. The defeat at Waterloo ended Napoleon's rule forever. Just days later, he was forced to abdicate once again. This time, the Allies sent him far away to the remote island of St. Helena in the South Atlantic. There, the once great emperor would spend the rest of his life in exile. The long era of the Napoleonic Wars was finally over, and the name Waterloo would forever become a symbol of the moment when one of history's greatest commanders lost everything.